I believe, a difference between school and education. And I don't think those are the same thing. I think school, and when I say I think, in my experience in a couple of decades in higher education, public education, private education, building my own schools, working with organizations all over the world, school is a very specific recipe. It was not designed based on human development. Um, it was designed for something that I think is a little more um, partially insidious, but definitely not as effective. So a teacher operates very well in school, and I'm not knocking teachers. There are really good humans in really bad systems. Um, but a teacher doesn't mean they're necessarily an educator. A teacher is somebody who comes in and perpetuates the system as is. They hold those boundaries, they hold that narrow view, they hold the line, and they make sure that everybody calibrates themselves to that specific system. An educator is somebody that says, no, I'm going to calibrate my approach to that specific individual. Right? That's the difference. The teacher is focused on the system, and I'm going to fit everybody in the system. The educator goes, no, I'm going to figure out who this person is. And I'm going to see, what is that person great at? What are they not great at? Where do they want to go? Where are they right now? What are the skills they have? What are the skills they want? How do they fit in? What are the patterns I'm seeing? Where can I push? Where can I prod? Where can I provide other resources? Where can I agitate? The educator comes alongside that person to really draw out the best of that person, as well as helps find other resources to then scaffold a roadmap so that person can go, here's my best version now, and here's the best version later, and how do I get there, right? It's a much more difficult thing. And I do believe it's a DNA trait, because you actually genuinely have to love and care about humans to be able to see those patterns. So to me, that's the difference.
Yeah, I love that, man, and I love that you said that it's a DNA trait. I've become known as Coach Frank Rich. It's all of our socials. It's the work I do with men is I'm a coach, and I make it very clear. Like, I'm not here to be a therapist counselor for you. I'm here as a coach. We're going to formulate a plan to move direction forward in a direction for a new vision for your life outside of the professional work. I coach sports. I coach youth sports. To the best of my ability. And I think I've said this many times. If like I was given any gift from God, I think it was that. I mean, I can remember almost feeling like a coach as a boy growing up, like organizing sports. Like, I was kind of the neighborhood kid that, painted the lines on the street, called all the kids together, organized the basketball, organized football. I truly do think that it is a gift. So when it comes to the DNA of an educator, what are some of those traits or characteristics that would make somebody a great educator?
That's a great question too, man. So I think there are a number of different traits, and so I want to make it very clear: there are educators who are in really bad systems. There are I was one of those. I'm somebody who I very much believe what you just said, what you just outlined, and the traits that I'm going to give. I very much believe those were God-given gifts for me as well. And I was in a system that then handcuffed me so that I could not use it. I was in a system that said, "Hey, you're an educator, but I need you to be a teacher." Right. And so then I was always most will acquiesce. I was what I called creatively insubordinate, and I was an HR nightmare on a school campus because there was no way I was going to be a teacher. So I think to be an educator, some of those traits: one, you do genuinely have to love people. That is a big part. I have had PhDs that have worked for me at various campuses that couldn't educate their way out of a paper bag because they actually didn't really like people, right? There was an inherent, like, I don't really like kids. I don't necessarily like adults. I'd rather kind of be by myself, but I knew how to play the game of school well. I always did well at school. And so now I'm in a career where right? I think an educator genuinely loves people. An educator is somebody who sees patterns. So they pay attention. And paying attention is something that I have found over 2 decades is a very rare quality. It's a very rare trait. People do not pay attention. People will get distracted and give their attention to a distraction, but they won't proactively pay attention and direct their intention towards something that matters. And then they will not take the time to think. Jung said most people judge because thinking is hard, right? So they won't take a time to think about what they're giving their attention to, what they're seeing, and going, okay, how does this connect to other things around me? What pattern does this remind me of from the past? What like educators are always thinking that way. And because of that, another part of that is an educator is curious. I think that's the third trait, right? They're curious. They're never taking the stance of um, I know everything. I've got it all figured out and I've got all the answers. So I'm here to disseminate the answers. They're going, man, I'm operating with the best of my knowledge. I'm thinking through this over and over and over again, but I'm going to go ahead and be brave enough to change my mind if better evidence is now presented because I'm curious enough to follow that thread, even if everybody is saying stop following the thread, even if culture says knock it off, you're not one of us, you're not. They're going to be brave enough to go ahead and curious enough to continue. So to me, those are some of the marks of a true educator.
Yeah, I love that, man. And kind of bringing it back to the coach hair analogy as well. I think we just saw, two of the greatest professional coaches of all time, Belichick and Saban retired on the same day. I was thinking about there was that national championship game a couple of years ago where Saban, literally halftime, I think he pulled the starting QB. They were down. It was like, this was the guy that got them there, pulled him out. He was ability to change the game plan in real time. And I think it was that trait, through the span of his career. Obviously he had the information, he was interested in what was going on, but the ability to navigate the system and know in real time, like we can't go with the game plan that we spent 2 weeks in preparation. We need to make a decision right now to change the course of direction. I think there's the same thing kind of running in consistency here with the educator part. Well, it's like we're going to be in this system, but if I got this unique kid here right there that is, not going to be able to follow this, I got to figure out what's going to make it click for him and be able to pull that lever.
That's right. And you got to not only do you have to see it and be curious enough to pay attention to those things, you got to be brave enough to do it, right? Because you're going to make that call that goes completely against the system. It goes completely against what everybody else is currently comfortable with. We like to say these cliches of like, get comfortable with being uncomfortable, and everybody will repeat it. But man, almost nobody lives it. And you find that out very, very quickly when you're the person that does believe it and goes, all right, man, cool. Let's buck the system. This is what we need to do right now. Just wait and see the amount of pushback you get. Wait and see how much fear that elicits. So you got to be brave to do that as well.